Jordan Graham always dreamed of her perfect wedding. She just wished the husband wasn't included. To many of their loved ones, Graham's relationship with Kouri Johnson was a blissful one. Following their wedding on June 29, 2013, however, friends said Graham became increasingly upset. The cause of the belated cold feet? According to a source close to the bride, she was terrified of having sex with her new husband. One evening, just 8 days after the wedding, Graham and Johnson took a hike along a cliffside in Glacier National Park, just a short trip from Graham's hometown of Kalispell, Montana. She returned alone, and when Johnson was reported missing the next day, she said he had been out with friends. Over a week later, with evidence and pressure mounting, Graham finally admitted the truth to the police. She had pushed Kouri Johnson off a cliff to his death in the ravine below. Born in August of 1991, Jordan Lynn Graham lived with her family in Kalispell, Montana. Only a stone's throw from Glacier National Park, Kalispell is a rural town in one of the United States' most scenic areas. Throughout her life, Graham was deeply religious. She regularly attended the Faith Baptist Church every week for worship and special events. The church was central to Graham's life, and she told friends there about her dreams of getting married and starting a family. According to reports, Graham told her friends, "I want to meet a nice guy, get married. I want to have kids, and I want to be a stay-at-home mom, and just have my family." Graham shared this dream with Kouri Johnson, an outgoing 25-year-old car enthusiast from California. The two met on Halloween in 2011. Graham's friends stated for the longest time, Kouri just always talked about how he wanted to have a good church girl. Instantly, that just summed up Jordan. Johnson joined Graham's church and quickly made friends with everyone in Graham's circle. Friends said Johnson appeared absolutely smitten with her. The couple's relationship moved quickly, and in December of 2012, Graham posted a photo on Instagram announcing her engagement to Johnson, and the two began planning their wedding. The couple wanted their wedding to be memorable, so they hired professional songwriter Elizabeth Shia to compose a custom song for the big event. Regarding Jordan Graham's behavior during her interviews with the couple, Shia stated she was excited when she talked about the wedding. When she talked about surprising Kouri, she would light up, and that seemed very genuine to me. Using information she gathered from the couple, Shia composed Graham and Johnson's wedding song with ominous lyrics. "Everyone wants a safe place to fall, and you're mine. You helped me to climb higher for a better view. You're my safe place to fall. You never let me go." On June 29, 2013, Graham and Johnson married, and friends noticed that Graham seemed a little off. To the couple's friends, Johnson had always seemed more interested in Graham than she was in him. Her defense attorneys would later write that witnesses saw that Graham cried too much walking down the aisle and appeared to not want to be there. According to a press release from the United States Attorney's Office, Graham reportedly texted friends a day after her wedding that she had totally had a meltdown and was having second thoughts about her marriage. She texted her friends wondering, "What the heck, I just did this all for?" Those close to the couple just brushed off these feelings by believing that Graham was the average bride, nervous about her wedding and her new husband, but her nerves would eventually settle down. They truly believed that the couple would find normalcy in time, but that moment never arrived. 8 days after the wedding, Kouri Johnson vanished without a trace. On July 8, 2013, Kouri Johnson's friend and boss, Cameron Fredrickson, reported him missing after he failed to show up to work. Fredrickson had driven to the couple's home to look for him, but found that no one was home. Investigators were immediately suspicious that Jordan Graham had not reported her own husband missing, and they initiated an interview with her. She stated that she did not know where Johnson was, and that he had texted her the night prior to his disappearance regarding his plans to go out with friends. On July 10th, Graham reported to police that she had received a suspicious email from an account named Carmen Tony 607 confirming her husband's death. The email read, "My name is Tony. There is no bother looking for Cody anymore. He is gone. I saw your post on Twitter and thought I would email you. He had come with some buddies and met up with me on Sunday night in Columbia Falls. He was saying he needed to be with his buddies for a bit and take them for a joyride. 3 of the guys came back saying that they had gone for a ride in the woods somewhere. And Cody got out of the car and went for a little hike. And they are positive he fell, and he is dead, Jordan. I don't know who the guys were, but they took off. So call off the missing persons report. Cody is gone for sure." The next day, police initiated a search of the Glacier National Park area based on the information in the email. Graham participated in the search, but witnesses said she appeared uninterested and stoic the entire time. While driving around Glacier National Park, Graham stopped on a secluded stretch of road leading up to a mountain overlook. She told friends and family she just had a feeling about the location. This spot, known as the Loop, is a dangerous 200-foot cliff overlooking a ravine. Very steep area, very treacherous. Full of rocks, said park spokesperson Denise German about the area to reporters. Despite the treacherous terrain, Graham hopped over jagged rocks to get a closer look at the ravine. Peering over the cliff, Jordan Graham yelled that she found a body. Police would later confirm that the body belonged to Cody Johnson. On July 16th, investigators brought Jordan Graham in for another interview after park rangers relayed their concerns about Graham's discovery of the body, for her to immediately go to that location. Both park rangers and police figured Graham knew more than she was letting on. Investigators started by digging deeper into the email from the mysterious Tony. Ultimately, they were able to trace its origin to a computer at Graham's parents' house. Furthermore, investigators became more suspicious of Graham after her friend came forward with ominous text messages from the night before Johnson's disappearance. According to reports, the friend told investigators that she received a text from Graham that night stating, "Oh well, I'm going to talk to him. But dead serious, if you don't hear from me at all again tonight, something happened." Confronted with all the evidence, Jordan Graham finally broke down and admitted to pushing Johnson off the cliff. "I just pushed, I wasn't thinking about where we were," she said in her police interview. Jordan Graham said that she was unhappy after the wedding. In part due to her strict religious upbringing, Graham was terrified of having sex with Johnson. The night of Johnson's murder, Graham and her husband had hiked up to the Loop. According to the affidavit, Graham stated that the two began arguing near the ravine, and when Johnson grabbed her by the arm, Graham pushed him away from her with both hands, causing him to stumble and fall off the 200-foot cliff. After her confession, Jordan Graham was arrested and eventually accepted a plea deal for second-degree murder in exchange for full transparency about what happened. The court sentenced Graham to 30 years behind bars with a 5-year observation period upon her release. In 2015, lawyers for Graham appealed her sentence, arguing that it was excessive. The court sided with prosecutors, and she remains incarcerated in Alabama. After the truth of Johnson's death came to light, the family and friends of the couple were heartbroken. "I never, ever expected her to be capable of hurting someone," Jordan Graham's friend said, "especially someone who would worship her. He would have given her anything at the drop of a hat." Police arrested a Utah author who wrote a children's book about grief following her husband's untimely death. The charges include 1 first-degree felony count of aggravated murder and 3 second-degree felony counts of possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance. The accused, Kouri Richins, is a 33-year-old mother of 3 and was married to Eric Richins, a member of a prominent family in the Summit County area of Utah. The couple had been married for roughly 9 years before Eric Richins' death and had 3 sons together. To the outside world, their marriage appeared relatively normal. Eric Richins owned a successful stone masonry business, and Kouri Richins worked as a real estate agent. But on the night of March 3, 2022, the Richins family experienced a tragedy. Kouri Richins placed a 911 call shortly after 3 in the morning. On the phone, she told dispatchers that her husband was cold to the touch. When officers arrived, Kouri told them that she had made a drink for her husband to celebrate a recent closing of a home. She also stated that Eric had taken a THC gummy. Tetrahydrocannabinol is a cannabinoid that makes an individual euphoric and high. After serving him the drink, Kouri reportedly spent a few hours in one of her son's bedrooms to help soothe his night terrors, before returning to her and Eric's room. There, she found him unresponsive on the floor. Following the sudden death, medical examiners performed an autopsy on Eric's body and found that he had died of a fentanyl overdose. According to the medical examiners, Eric had over 5 times the lethal amount of fentanyl in his system. Given these autopsy results, authorities became suspicious of Kouri, but they needed time to gather evidence to prove that she had poisoned her husband. In the year following her husband's death, Kouri published a children's book titled Are You With Me? The story explored grief and how to navigate it as a young child. Kouri recently spoke about the book and the loss of her husband on podcasts and talk shows. While appearing on the show Good Things Utah, Kouri said she always makes sure that her husband's spirit is alive in her home. Just because he's not present here with us physically, that doesn't mean that his presence isn't here with us, she explained. Kouri dedicated the book to my amazing husband and a wonderful father. While Kouri Richins built a name for herself as a grieving widow and burgeoning author, the police built a case against her for murder. With a warrant in hand, the police seized Kouri's electronic devices and began meticulously reviewing their contents. On Kouri's phone, police found that she had contacted a friend in search of prescription pain medication. "I want some of the Michael Jackson stuff," Kouri wrote in a text, reports stated. Specifically, Kouri was interested in fentanyl, and her friend obliged, giving her 15 to 20 fentanyl pills. Alongside suspicious texts, Eric's family reportedly voiced concerns about Kouri to police shortly after his death. The family said Eric had warned them that if anything happened to him, Kouri was to blame. Eric's family even remarked that Kouri had attempted to poison Eric on at least 2 other occasions. One of Eric's 2 sisters told police he had called her while vacationing with Kouri in Greece. While the couple relaxed and enjoyed their time together, Kouri reportedly handed Eric a drink that made him violently ill. On February 14, 2022, Eric reportedly suffered from an allergic reaction at the dinner table and passed out. When he woke, he was sure his wife was trying to kill him. Further damning evidence came from Eric's life insurance company. In January 2022, Kouri allegedly changed the policy beneficiary from one of Eric's friends and business partners to herself. When the company contacted Eric regarding this change, he immediately switched it back. Additionally, Eric changed the beneficiary of his will and power of attorney from Kouri to his sister. Court documents also mention that Eric was on the cusp of beginning divorce proceedings when he died. Kouri reportedly found out that she had been cut from the will after Eric's death, and she quickly began suing Eric's family for what she considered her rightful cut of her late husband's assets. With a financial motive for the crime and physical evidence connecting Kouri to her husband's death, police arrested her at her home. Currently, Kouri is facing murder and drug charges. A Utah judge on Wednesday, May 15, 2024, postponed the hearing to determine if prosecutors have enough evidence to proceed to trial. When Nate Kibby stuck a no trespassing sign near a red storage container near his trailer in Gorham, New Hampshire, his trailer park neighbors didn't think much of it. Kibby had always struck everyone as being a little off. But in fact, Kibby would use the container as a makeshift prison for a 14-year-old girl named Abby Hernandez, whom he'd kidnapped on her walk home from school on October 9, 2013. Kibby held Hernandez for 9 terrifying months, during which he subjected her to horrific sexual assaults and threatened to kill her family and friends. Despite his vicious abuses, Hernandez managed to earn his trust, and when Kibby learned that he might face arrest for a different crime, he let Hernandez go. Before long, police descended on Kibby's home, and the whole world learned what he had done. It didn't take long for Nathaniel Nate Kibby to build something of a reputation among those who knew him. Born on July 15, 1980, he struck many of his high school classmates as aggressive and cruel. Kibby allegedly had a hit list of other students and claimed to be part of a gang called the Vipers. However, at least one of his former classmates later dismissed him as a loser. As an adult, Kibby seemed to live a double life. He found work at a local machine shop and was, by some accounts, a model employee. But Kibby also developed a reputation with local law enforcement. He got in trouble for grabbing a 16-year-old as she tried to get on the school bus, for possessing marijuana, and for providing false information while trying to obtain a weapon. Many saw him as provocative and argumentative. In 2014, he was arrested after a traffic dispute allegedly ended with Kibby following a woman to her house and pushing her to the ground. "He is not a normal person," the woman later said. According to Heavy, "He is not right." Kibby also developed a reputation among his neighbors, who could often hear him yelling at his girlfriend of 13 years, Angel Whitehouse. She was no longer with Kibby during Hernandez's kidnapping. Kibby was also known among his neighbors for his frequent anti-government rants. He was a strange man, but no one knew what Nate Kibby was secretly planning. Then, in October 2013, 14-year-old Abby Hernandez disappeared on her way home from school. On October 9, 2013, Nate Kibby spotted 14-year-old Abby Hernandez walking home from school in North Conway, New Hampshire, and offered her a ride. At Kibby's plea hearing, one of her lawyers later explained that Abby had blisters from wearing no socks, so she faithfully accepted. Soon after Hernandez got into Kibby's car, however, his helpful demeanor changed. He pulled out a gun and threatened to slit her throat if she tried to scream or escape. Kibby handcuffed Hernandez, wrapped a jacket around her head, and broke her cell phone. When she tried to see outside the jacket, he shocked her with a stun gun. "Does the tasing hurt?" he asked. When Hernandez answered that it did, he replied, "Well, now you know what it feels like." From there, Hernandez's captivity only grew worse. Kibby brought Hernandez to his home, where he bound her with zip ties so tight that they left scars, stuck tape over her eyes, wrapped a t-shirt around her head, and forced her into a motorcycle helmet. Then, he raped her. For 9 months, Hernandez remained Kibby's prisoner. At Kibby's plea hearing, her lawyers told the court that Kibby had put a shock collar around Hernandez's neck, made her wear diapers, and threatened her with death if she ever tried to escape. He also showed her his collection of guns and threatened to kill her family and friends. But Hernandez, in a bid to stay alive, sought to bond with her captor, despite his horrific treatment of her. Part of how I gained his trust is, I went along with everything he wanted to do. Kibby came to trust Hernandez enough to let her write a letter, though he threw out the first draft because she'd inscribed help with her fingernails in the paper, tell her about himself, and even enlist her help to produce counterfeit money. I remember thinking to myself, okay, I got to work with this guy, Hernandez stated. I said to him, I don't judge you for this. If you let me go, I won't tell anybody about this. For a long time, Hernandez's tactics didn't work, though Kibby gave her more and more freedom, like reading books. Reading a cookbook one day, she learned his name when she saw it written inside. But in July 2014, something finally shifted. Then, Kibby learned that a sex worker he had paid with his counterfeit money had turned him in to the police. Concerned that they would raid his home and search the premises, he let Hernandez go on the condition that she not reveal his identity. "I remember looking up and laughing, just being so happy," she stated. "Oh my God, this actually happened. I'm a free person. I never thought it would happen to me, but I'm free." After a horrifying 9 months, the teenager walked home and let herself in the front door. Then, Abby Hernandez let the police know exactly what Nate Kibby had done to her. Nate Kibby may have believed Abby Hernandez when she said that she wouldn't tell anyone about who he was or what he'd done to her. But she and her family quickly notified the police, who soon raided Kibby's property and arrested him. Kibby didn't resist at all, one of his neighbors stated. He just walked out and they took him. Indeed, despite his earlier aggressive reputation, Nathaniel Kibby seemed to be done fighting. He pleaded guilty to 7 felony counts, including kidnapping and sexual assault, allegedly to spare Hernandez from a trial. His decision to accept responsibility was solely driven by his desire to not put the victim or anybody else through the rigors and continued stress of a long and drawn-out trial. Kibby's defense team stated at his plea hearing. At that hearing, Hernandez was also allowed to address her kidnapper. "It was not my choice to be raped and threatened," she told him. "You did that all yourself." But despite what Kibby had done to her, Hernandez still forgave him. She continued, "Some people might call you a monster, but I've always looked at you as a human, and I want you to know that even though life became a lot harder after that, I still forgive you." After Kibby went to jail, Abby Hernandez started her life anew. In the years since, she moved to Maine and had a child. And when a movie about her ordeal came out in 2022, Girl in the Shed, Hernandez consulted on it and took control of her own story. "Obviously, it's a weird experience to have this happen in the first place," she stated. "And then to have it made into a movie is obviously like an even weirder experience. But ultimately, I did find it healing in a weird way just to have it out there." Nate Kibby, on the other hand, is serving a sentence of 45 to 90 years. He may stay in prison until the day he dies. Jordan Turpin appeared to have a happy childhood. After all, the 17-year-old had a dozen siblings and was raised by 2 seemingly attentive parents. Beneath the surface, however, Turpin was surviving the unspeakable as her parents abused, tortured, and imprisoned her and her siblings for years. Her parents, David and Louise Turpin, were Pentecostal Christians who believed God had called upon them to produce as many children as possible and provided each of their 13 children with only 1 meal per day, 1 shower per year, and routinely bullied, beat, and strangled them. On the rare occasions that the Turpin children were allowed outside, neighbors in Perry, California, noted their pale and malnourished state. Their home itself was riddled with human feces, dead pets, rotting trash, and expired food. Remarkably, it was Jordan Turpin herself who was able to put an end to what press would call this house of horrors. Turpin bravely escaped one day in 2018 to call 911, after which her parents were sent to prison. Turpin has since bore the responsibility of protecting her siblings and has garnered a substantial fan base whose donations are keeping them all fed. "Now I can afford to give all my siblings some really good, nice gifts this year," Turpin said in one of her TikTok videos. "I am so happy and thankful that I can do that. I hope someday that I can help you guys and others just like you guys have helped me. It means so much to me." Jordan Turpin was born in 2001 in Perry, California. Her father, David Allen Turpin, hailed from Mercer County, West Virginia. Her mother, Anne Louise Robinette, attended the same high school as her future husband. David Turpin was 24 when he married 16-year-old Robinette in the town of Parisburg in 1985. David Turpin had studied computer engineering at Virginia Tech University and later worked for Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. The couple moved to Fort Worth, Texas, and had the first of their 13 children in 1988. Jordan Turpin was 13 years old when the large family moved to California in 2014, and neighbors found their abandoned trailer in Texas full of feces, trash, dead cats, and ropes tied to bed frames. Jordan Turpin recalled a lot of starving at home. She resorted to ice chips or condiments for food and wasn't allowed to use the bathroom. She and her siblings instead were forced to smear their feces on the carpet. While her parents claimed that they homeschooled their children, Jordan Turpin claimed to be only educated in physical abuse. "The only word I know to call it is hell," said Turpin. Turpin recalled spending most of her life in a bedroom with two of her younger sisters, who were chained up for months on end. When they were fed, the Turpin family children were given peanut butter sandwiches or chips and frozen burritos. Pleading for more was punishable by beatings with belts or slams against the walls. Jordan Turpin was so isolated from the real world that she had never been to the dentist. Her 11-year-old sister was so malnourished that her arm circumference resembled that of a 4-month-old. The last time Jordan saw a doctor before her rescue was in 2013. Then, in 2016, she stole one of her parents' phones to discover Justin Bieber. "I don't know where we would be if we didn't watch Justin Bieber," said Turpin. "I started realizing that there's a different world out there. I wanted to experience that." Jordan Turpin continued surreptitiously using her parents' phone. She eventually started posting on social media platforms herself and began communicating with people. One user asked her why she was always awake at night and never left the house. "I did tell him that I didn't really go to school, and I wasn't allowed to go in the backyard or front yard, and that I'm always kept inside. And I told him how we eat and how we're not allowed to get out of bed," she said. "He was like, 'This isn't right. You should call the cops.'" Then, one of Jordan's siblings told their mother about her contact with the outside world. Louise Turpin responded by violently choking her daughter. It was ultimately the last straw for Jordan, who began hatching an escape plan and galvanizing some of her siblings to help. "I thought I was going to die that day," she recalled. "After that whole day happened, I kept having nightmares that she was going to kill me." Her older sister, Jennifer Turpin, tried to draw a map of their neighborhood. It was fairly primitive as neither of them had spent much time outside. Since one of their brothers secretly watched cops on the television, however, he informed them that calling the number 911 would alert the police. Time rapidly became of the essence when Jennifer and Jordan Turpin overheard their mother screaming about a move to Oklahoma on January 14, 2018. Jordan recalled thinking that there was a big chance that some of us would have died due to the malnourished state of her and her siblings. Jennifer encouraged Jordan to take photos of the house and her captive siblings before escaping. Jordan stole her older brother's secret cell phone to do so. At the time, 2 Turpin children were in chains simply because they had stolen their mother's sweets. One had been restrained for 15 consecutive days. Determined to escape before the next morning, Turpin propped her pillows up beneath her blanket to make it seem as though she was asleep. She packed a small bag and climbed out of her bedroom window, but was frozen once outside, as she had never seen a sidewalk. Yet, moments later, she bravely called the cops. "I had no idea what direction to go," she said. "I was so scared. I was trying to dial 911, but I couldn't even get my thumb to press the buttons because I was shaking so bad. I was telling them everything. We didn't go to school. We live in filth. How we starve because I had to make sure that if I left, we wouldn't go back."
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
I just ran away from home.
Do you know what street you're on?
No. I just ran away from home because I live in a family of 15, okay? Can you hear me? And we have abusing parents. Did you hear that?
Okay, how did they abuse you?
Okay. They hit us, they throw us across the room. They pull our hair, they yank out our hair. I have my 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 17.
What's your name?
Turpin.
Okay, I'm going to connect you to the sheriff's department so that they can help
What?
you. One moment, don't hang up.
I won't.
When the Riverside County Sheriff's Department raided the home, they confirmed Jordan's claims and arrested David and Louise Turpin on the spot. They were charged with 12 counts of false imprisonment, 12 counts of torture, 7 counts of abuse of a dependent adult, and 6 counts of child abuse, and plead not guilty. On February 22, 2019, however, they were sentenced to life in prison. Jordan Turpin now has taken to social media in an effort to support her siblings. Turpin has a loyal following of over 700,000 TikTok users. She frequently uploads videos of herself, dancing or thanking strangers for kindly donating to her cause. "I love helping others," Turpin's bio states. "Love to dance and write songs." She has another 160,000 followers on Instagram. "Hey guys, I just wanted to pop on here really quick and say thank you so much for all the love and all the support," she said in one video. "Whoever has followed me or watched my videos, I appreciate you so much, and I love you guys so much." When asked directly what she wanted for her life, Turpin painted a vivid picture. "Maybe a kid someday, a nice car," she said, "graduating college, being a book writer, or a motivational speaker. When I have kids, I want to make sure I'm in a good place. I want the last name Turpin to be remembered as a name of strength." In June 2020, someone hired to mow Wanda Palmer's lawn came to her Cottageville, West Virginia mobile home and found her bloody and unconscious. But after being in a coma for 2 years, Wanda has woken up and named her brother, Daniel, as the person who assaulted her. For her to be able to wake up and give the name, "Thank God," Missy Powers stated, who has known the Palmer siblings for years. "That's all I can say. Thank God, because she definitely deserves justice. Definitely." Police have had little to go on since Wanda's attack 2 years ago. Though they determined she'd been assaulted with an edged weapon, possibly a hatchet, Wanda's mobile home had no electricity, which meant that police couldn't sift through her surveillance footage or cell phone history. One witness did mention that they'd seen Daniel Palmer on Wanda's porch about 10 hours before Wanda was discovered, but it wasn't enough for police to pursue him as a suspect. What's more, Wanda Palmer seemed to be close to death, so police had little hope that she'd wake up and help them. "I wouldn't have wagered a nickel for her life that morning. She was in that bad of shape," Sheriff Ross Mellinger stated. "Quite honestly, she was unconscious, circling the drain medically. Massive amounts of head trauma," Mellinger added. "We had a little bit of an idea what happened, but the problem was with the nuts and bolts of the case we had nothing to go on. There was no eyewitnesses. Nobody lived in the home, no surveillance footage, no cell phone records. There was virtually nothing there to move forward on. That is, until early July 2022, when Wanda Palmer's caseworker contacted the police to let them know that she had woken up from her coma. The keys to the whole thing lay with the victim herself, and with her unable to communicate, we were left with nothing," Mellinger explained. Now, lo and behold, 2 years later, and boom, she's awake and able to tell us exactly what happened. Her attacker, Wanda Palmer told the police, was her brother, Daniel. Daniel and Wanda had a history of violence. Daniel Palmer has flatly denied that he had anything to do with the attack on his sister. He claims that he hadn't been to Wanda's home for days before she was assaulted. According to reports, they lived about a half-mile apart on the same property. For now, it seems that Wanda Palmer may have a long road toward recovery. The Jackson County, West Virginia Sheriff's Department asked for continued prayers for the victim on Facebook, and Mellinger said that he's not sure if Wanda will fully recover. That said, Mellinger referred to her waking up and naming her assailant as nothing short of a miracle. The sheriff said from an investigator's standpoint, "This is about as rare as it gets. I think it's a true testament to the perseverance and the strength of the victim herself." By late 2013, 20-year-old Heather Elvis had been living on her own for more than a year and had a job at a restaurant called the Tilted Kilt in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She had a blossoming relationship and, by all accounts, appeared happy. But before the year was up, Heather Elvis disappeared forever. On December 19th, Horry County Police discovered her abandoned green Dodge Intrepid 8 miles from Myrtle Beach. The vehicle had gone unattended for hours at the Peachtree Landing boat ramp. There was no broken glass or blood, nor signs of a struggle, but Elvis was now officially missing. After notifying her parents, officers drove to the Tilted Kilt. Her coworker and roommate Brianna Coulter said that her new lover, Sydney Moorer, was not only a married man, but that he may have recently gotten her pregnant. Police soon learned that Moorer's wife discovered the affair and harassed Elvis for weeks. After finding eerie security footage of his car near Peachtree Landing on December 18th and a pregnancy test in his possession, the Moorers were charged with murder, but would never be convicted of it. Heather Elvis has never been found. Born on June 30th, 1993, in Carolina Forest, South Carolina, Heather Richins Elvis had her whole life ahead of her before she vanished. She graduated from St. James High School in Murrells Inlet in 2011 and planned to move out as an independent adult. Her parents supported this since she was their eldest daughter. Elvis not only found an apartment in Myrtle Beach, but got a job at the Tilted Kilt, a Scottish-themed restaurant just a couple of miles from the ocean. She also worked at the House of Blues while studying cosmetology. Then, in June 2013, she met 37-year-old Sydney Moorer. Moorer was a maintenance worker who often repaired the restaurant's kitchen equipment, and Elvis took notice. She expressed her preference for older men to coworkers and Twitter followers alike. At 7:12 p.m. on July 10th, Elvis tweeted, "Baby did a bad thing." A minute later, she followed up with, "I'm in way too deep. But watch me get in deeper." We all knew about it because people did make fun of her knowing that he was a married man. Her roommate and coworker Brianna Coulter said, "Heather was made fun of a lot, and she was called multiple names by girls we worked with. One day, two of the girls decided to call the Tilted Kilt and pretend to be Tammy, Sydney's wife. When Tammy did find out, she allegedly forced Sydney to get a tattoo of her name and handcuffed him to their bed at night. She had him end the affair over the phone before confiscating it. Elvis was heartbroken, but moved on. And yet, Tammy routinely called the Tilted Kilt to harass her. She also sent Elvis lewd photos of her and Sydney in bed together. On September 21st, 2013, Elvis tweeted, "Once upon a time, an angel and a devil fell in love. It did not end well." On November 19th, the Moorers left town for a 3-week vacation to Disneyland to reconcile their marriage. Meanwhile, Heather Elvis managed to get a cosmetology job at a local beauty parlor and was due to start before Christmas. But her Tilted Kilt coworkers noticed she had grown in size, and Elvis worriedly took a pregnancy test. She forged ahead in limbo as the results came back as error. Elvis went on a date with a man named Steve Schiraldi on December 17th, who later claimed he dropped her off at home after 1 a.m. Then, on December 19th, the police located her car abandoned at a boat launch on the Waccamaw River in Socastee called Peachtree Landing. Soon, investigators learned about Sydney Moorer. They questioned him on December 20th. Moorer denied being near Peachtree Landing on the night in question, but the police then combed Elvis' phone records and found she called a payphone 9 times beginning at 1:35 a.m. on December 18th. Prosecutor Chris Helms later suggested Elvis had been frantically trying to return someone's call, a person without a phone. Police asked Moorer if he was the one she called, which he denied. While they did recover security footage of the payphone and saw someone using it during that time, it was too grainy to identify the caller. However, when they told Moorer he had been caught on tape, he admitted having spoken to Elvis that night. Heather Elvis's roommate, Brianna Colzer, told the investigators that Elvis had called her that night and said Moorer was leaving his wife for her. Colzer warned Elvis not to meet him and hoped Elvis went to bed after their chat. Since this contradicted Moorer's claim that he told Elvis to leave him alone, the police made him a suspect. Ominously, Heather Elvis' phone records showed she spoke with the payphone caller several times from 3:17 to 3:21 a.m. before she drove to Peachtree Landing. She then called the same number at 3:37 a.m., the same time that surveillance footage showed Sydney Moorer's black Ford F-150 approaching her. Elvis' phone died at 3:41 a.m. Evidence against Moorer kept piling up. Police noted his pickup leaving the Peachtree Landing area at 3:45 a.m. They searched it to find he had disengaged the GPS system on the night of December 18th, which prevented police from reviewing where the car had been. Sydney and Tammy Moorer were arrested on February 21, 2014. Sydney and Tammy Moorer were charged with murder and kidnapping. However, with no murder weapon, body, or forensic evidence, the murder charges were dropped. They posted $20,000 bail and awaited their kidnapping trials. Despite the Moorers' home security footage showing them washing their car after December 18th and burning the rags they used, and a receipt for a pregnancy test in their possession, Sydney Moorer's trial resulted in a mistrial. He was charged with obstruction of justice in August 2017 for lying about his use of the payphone. Found guilty, he was sentenced to 10 years. Tammy Moorer went on trial in October 2018 when prosecutors tacked on a conspiracy to kidnap charge. Investigators provided evidence that she had stalked Elvis after learning about the affair. She was found guilty on both counts and sentenced to 2 concurrent terms of 30 years. Sydney Moorer's retrial in September 2019 saw him face an additional conspiracy charge. He received the same sentence as his wife. Both continue to deny any wrongdoing and are appealing their convictions. To this day, no trace of Heather Elvis has ever been found. Nothing could have prepared Tara Pakanich for what she encountered in the early morning hours of February 23, 2022. Inside a green bucket covered with a shower towel at her home in Green Bay, Wisconsin, was the mutilated head of her 24-year-old son, Shad Thyrion. Thyrion's torso, penis, and carved-out organs were later found by law enforcement in her basement. The gruesome nature of the murder was on full display in court as Taylor Schabusiness faced trial in July 2023. When Green Bay police officers in Wisconsin responded to a call on February 23rd, they rushed to the 800 block of Stony Brook Lane and entered a house of horrors. They discovered a man's head and male organ in a bucket and charged 24-year-old Taylor Schabusiness with murder. The call was made by the unidentified victim's mother. She had found her son's head in the basement after being woken by a slamming door between 2 and 3 a.m. Schabusiness picked up Thyrion around 9:30 p.m. on February 21, 2022. A friend of the couple joined them before they headed to an apartment where the three smoked marijuana. Schabusiness told police that she and Thyrion also smoked methamphetamine and injected trazodone. Schabusiness and Thyrion eventually returned to his mother's home and spent the day there while Miss Pakanich was away. The couple reportedly placed choke collars on each other's throats. Schabusiness claimed in an interview with police that she and Thyrion used chains to choke one another as foreplay. This time, she said, she and Thyrion put metal chains on each other. Thyrion laid face down in bed before Schabusiness went crazy and repeatedly choked him despite the fact that he was coughing blood and turned purple. Shabiznes said she could feel her partner's heartbeat as she cut his oxygen off and kept pulling and choking him harder until he was dead. It was then that she played with his corpse for 2 to 3 hours and used a variety of blades to dismember him. Shabiznes told police that they were going to have fun trying to find all of the organs before pointing them toward the man's basement and her minivan at home. She asked officers if they knew what it was like to love something so much that you kill it. Green Bay Police Detective David Graff testified in court that Shabiznes allegedly admitted to enjoying the ordeal. Described as a known associate of the victim, Taylor Shabiznes had been the last person to be seen with him. Police responded to the crime scene at 3:25 a.m. and then drove to her house on Eastman Avenue to arrest her. Officers immediately noted the dried blood on her clothes. The scene was a macabre mess, starting with the man's head and penis found beneath a towel in a bucket. The criminal complaint said that officers lifted the towel and observed a human head inside the bucket, and looked around the room and observed what appeared to be dried blood on a nearby mattress. Shabiznes stated there should be a foot or a leg in the minivan. Detective Graff asked Shabiznes what she did with the head, and Shabiznes stated she had put the victim's head in a black bucket and put a blanket over it. Shabiznes also said that choking the man to death took between 3 and 5 minutes, and that she used a serrated bread knife and another blade to cut him up. Officers spotted dried blood on a mattress and the victim's torso stuffed into a storage tote. His legs were shoved into a crock-pot box in the suspect's van. When police asked Shabiznes what happened, she replied simply, "That is a good question." While she was inebriated at the time of the murder, she nonetheless recalled that the bread knife worked the best because of the serrated blade. She hoped to bring all of the limbs home with her, but ultimately got tired. Shabiznes stated the plan was for her to bring all of the body parts with her, but she got lazy and only ended up putting the leg foot in the van, and she forgot the head, the complaint said. Charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault, Shabiznes said she had gone crazy and essentially blacked out during the exhaustive process of murder and dismemberment. She only left his head and penis behind because she got paranoid and fled. "I can't believe I left the head, though," added Shabiznes. Shabiznes had been on the local police radar for at least a few days before the grisly events took place. She had been placed on probation 7 weeks earlier and had taken her monitoring bracelet off. While this would typically result in a visit from authorities, she was only arrested after the gruesome crime. A Brown County court deemed her a flight risk and set bail at $2 million cash. Shabiznes reportedly appeared calm and soft-spoken during her court appearance. Assistant District Attorney Caleb Saunders, however, didn't mince words in calling her crime one of the most serious offenses we've had in this county in some time. "I think the facts alleged are extremely concerning and disturbing and go to the violent nature and grave nature of the offenses," said Saunders. Shabiznes entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity entered by her former attorney. A physician appointed by the court found that she was able to stand trial. Her attorney said at that time that Shabiznes has been diagnosed as bipolar in the past, and that she had been getting mental health treatment since she was in the 7th grade. However, Brown County Circuit Court Judge Thomas Walsh ruled in March that Shabiznes was competent to stand trial. In February, Shabiznes attacked her previous attorney during a court hearing before a deputy wrestled her to the courtroom floor. Shabiznes's current attorney filed a motion to exclude evidence of searches she made before the murder, including Jeffrey Dahmer walking into court, all sexy, and Jeffrey Dahmer's butt. Judge Walsh ruled that the evidence can be admitted in court, but no mention should be made of her searches for Satanism. Judge Thomas Walsh sentenced Shabiznes to life in prison for the murder. Shabiznes also received consecutive sentences of 90 months for mutilation of a corpse and 3 years for third-degree sexual assault. In handing down his sentence, Judge Walsh did not mince his words, Telling Shaw business, the offense in this case can't be overstated. In this case, you seem to run out of superlatives in describing what happened. He went on to say, "This crime offends human decency. It offends human dignity. It offends the human community. It really does." When asked if she had anything to say at her sentencing hearing, Shaw business told the judge, "There isn't." Those remarks marked the end of an unpredictable trial, during which Shaw business was ordered to wear a spit hood covering her face out of fear she might spit or bite a member of the court. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to stay tuned with the latest uploads.